Welcome to the YourTurn podcast. Today we're going to talk with Peter Snauwaert. We can learn from him a lot. He's not only a very passionate musician, he's also a sales director at Dropsolid and helps building the future careers of his salespeople. How to become better in sales, but also how to become better human beings. It's amazing how he protects his team and builds them up so that they can become the next leaders. Enjoy the podcast. Hello, Peter.
Hello, Cedric.
Welcome to YourTurn podcast. So we're going to talk today about the pivots you had in life. You are a very strong sales leader. You're also a very strong person. You're very creative. You play the guitar. You're a musician. So introduce yourself to the audience.
I'm Peter.
Okay, good.
So I indeed combine lots of things. But for me, the focal point is passion, and I'm passionate about sales, passionate about podcasting, of course, and also about music. Right now, professionally, I'm doing two things. So I have my own company, which has the podcast, What's on Your Mind, of course, and I work as a sales leader for a marketing tech company in Belgium, leading 7 people.
Okay, sounds great. And if you look at your journey, right? So you have your entire career, you've been active in sales. You became a sales leader. At the same time, some things have changed inside of you. So maybe you can tell us briefly about the journey, and then we will pick a number of things out to go deeper into this.
Well, the thing was that before I joined Dropsolid, I didn't want to become any more a sales leader position because I've done it before in a startup when I was 37. It's more than 10 years ago. So I was like, no, that's not for me anymore. I mean, being a leader, it takes also great responsibility. And so the thing is that I've always worked in software companies, and I've done a couple of startups by accident. And then I went to the opposite, which was IBM, because I wanted to taste how life is there from the eyes of a salesperson. So because my juice to keep me flowing, my energy comes from building things, building companies, building teams. I'm not Bob the Builder, maybe Peter the Builder, but I love for me, it's in the journey. It's not the destination. Once I reach certain things and things go by themselves, for me, that's not my thing. And that's why I love to reinvent myself and really look up the borders of of the things that I can do, and really learn where's my zone of genius, and really exploit that or use that in my favor, of course, and having a great time. So, and that's why I have if you look at the things I've done in my career, it's a combination of startups and then going to corporates, then again a startup, and then going into some, I call it medium-sized companies like Symantec or Trend Micro, and then doing something completely different, more a regional-based company. Regional. It's now also an almost 1,000 persons company, services company, and then now it's a company of 90 persons. So because I really like to reinvent myself and to start all over again in a complete new environment in terms of services, of software, technology that I don't know. Because I'm very curious. That's why I started the podcast, and I like to learn stuff. So again, the journey. Yeah. Sounds great. And you told me in one of the previous conversations that you're the strong salesperson, overachieving a lot. You closed, I think, a $60 million deal as well, or €60 million deal as well. Yeah. So you're a very high achiever, and now you're looking differently at this. So what happened? Well, first of all, you never close a deal alone. I mean, let me get that straight. The thing was that in the first half of my life, I think it was around 38, it was around that. I was very, and I still am, I have that still in me, results oriented, driven, objective. Everything in my life was objective, even personal relationships. I had KPIs and stuff. So everything was rationally. And this means that I discovered unconscious that I was good at building companies and especially from scratch. There were no customers at all. And building something with that, and so you generated leads and closed deals, etc. And then you sold the company also as well, and that gave me some kind of identity. It gave me some kind of role, which I carried for I think around 36, 38, something like that, where I was very unconscious about the fact that I needed to overachieve in order to be happy or to make me feel good. I don't want to use the term successful, but that was for me the turning point. That was at the same time very unhappy if I didn't succeed. I was so conditioned by getting that target, and I was only focusing on the results and never on the journey. I did not enjoy the journey. I was only focused if I reach that certain point, that deal, that target, I will be happy. So of course it made me lots of money, but that wasn't the case. Actually, it was really about that mental stretching myself, because in the end, and that's what I know right now because I'm conscious about it, but at that time I felt I was not good enough. I didn't even felt that I was good as a sales, some kind of hidden imposter syndrome. And so I carried that mask with me all of the time, because I also thought that you should behave in a certain way as a salesperson. You wear a costume and you talk with all these bullshit words and things, and you have to behave. And indeed, there is some kind of rock and roll side of me also, which didn't fit in. And I think around 36, 38, it became clear that when I had that senior VP position, I thought I was it, but you're still the same person. I mean, it's not because you have the role and the responsibility that the sun is shining out of your ass. And that made me realize that if I look back on my life, that I had everything materialistically, but I wasn't happy, even with the title and the prestige. And I was like, this is not feeding my soul, if I can use this in this podcast, because it doesn't give me any form of purpose or it doesn't give me some kind of impact. And so later on, I discovered that right now, I'm 47, that the energy that I get if I can coach younger people of other people and see them transform, it's really something that I really love. And also I have taken out of my ego out of the picture also. So it's not about me. Of course, I still have an ego, but that's a different discussion. But I really enjoy building with people and winning with people. If I see the whole sales team win, I mean, that makes me very happy. So at the same time, I'm very compassionate as human being, but at the same time, I am also a high performer. So I'm going to challenge them, a lot to make them grow, but not to the point that they burn out. And that's also why the corporate culture around 36, 38 no longer fitted the person who I was or am. And that's why I changed completely direction. So, but I learned a lot there, and I'm combining all the things that I learned, the good things, and with the experience that I have right now.
And do you have like a few moments that you started to realize, okay, this is no longer for me? Because I can imagine you don't wake up one day and go, oh, this is no longer for me, I'm going to shift direction. So what happened?
It's but I think I have two very important moments. Is that, I mean, and this is now very open, is that there was a time that I thought, and it wasn't it's like, it's maybe a very strange analogy, but imagine you are Kurt Cobain, the guitar player or singer of Nirvana, and you make your second record called Nevermind, and everybody is telling you you're the best, everything that you touch is gold, and and I felt also that certain people, it's my responsibility, so I don't blame them anything at all. So they were so on, work with us, you're going to do great because I did that great, etc., etc. And so I stepped into a startup, which the product was unsellable. It's still today, it's sold to company, but the product in that form has never been sold properly. They are selling another product that they used some kind in the basement or something, was lying around, which is now very successful. And I was like, this is not making me happy. I thought this was going to make me happy around my 36, and I really thought I had arrived at my destination. I was like, now I'm here. But life doesn't stop at 36. Fortunately for me. Yeah. So I was like, this stuff is not working anymore for myself. Of course, it was also combined with some personal challenges, like a divorce. And then I changed jobs in a very rational way. So I changed to a security software company. And in that third year, just before that third year, I had some kind of sales assessment. And the sales assessment teacher, he did some kind of training, and he compared you with the best sales in the world. But at that time, I just believed everybody was telling me. If they said it was like that, I never was going to think about myself. Is this really who I am? Is this really what I want? I was like, no, you're good. And that guy, he told me, he said, Peter, you are stretching yourself, you are pushing yourself because you want to become successful, and you are impatient. And so you have to mentally reset yourself. And I'm like, interesting. I fully agree with that. Because I wanted to feel successful anymore, because I was reaching targets, but it was not enough for me. I was not happy with 100%. I wanted to have the 200% or the 250%, because that's my thing. And he said, yeah, you have to do a mental reset. And I was like, you're right. And they thought I was doing or having a mental reset. But in my mind, I was like, I need to leave here. This is not where I'm very passionate about. The people are great. I still love them. I still see them. They're amazing people. But the product suite was, for me, it doesn't keep me flowing. And after 3 years, so what I did, I was like, okay, I'm now going to take the time. I'm going to apply for a new job for the first time in my life, because otherwise I was asked to do a job. And so I'm going to talk with lots of people, experiments. I did how do you call that? A job career coaching thing where I discovered for the first time my values and who I am. And based on that values, I searched for a company who matched my values. So trust and working with A players, etc.
And Peter,
yes.
Let me briefly interrupt. So were you surprised to read your values or to realize what your values were?
Well, yes and no. The thing is, Cedric, is that I was not aware or conscious about them, and I was just living at full speed and never took the time to stand still and to really reflect on, hey, is this where I want to be? Is this who I am? Is this really resonating with my true being? Mm-hmm. Or am I living up to the expectation or the conditions of other people? And because I never asked myself that question, and you can ask me, Peter, why is that possible? But it's really simple. You start in a position and you make lots of money and you're in that rat race all of the time. Then, of course, you have your domestic things that you have to do. I was always also a lot away from home. So, I mean, for playing guitar or doing whatever things. So I was never taking the time to really reflect and standing still. I also thought at that time, self-reflection, I found it crap and bullshit. So it was really then with the values that I was like, okay. So I knew that the answers were in me, but I never took the time to really listen to my inner voice. I don't know if I can say this on this podcast, if I'm a little bit going overboard.
You definitely can say this, no worries. We'll get much deeper into this in a couple of minutes, so go ahead.
And so by just, the trick is there is that instead of it's better to move slowly in the right direction than fast in the wrong direction. And there I had learned that I have put my ladder onto the wrong mountain or the wrong tree. Now, it's of course in order to get those insights, I had to do these things to come to that insight. So I learned those lessons. So it was not like I regretting all these things. Of course not. I mean, I've learned a lot. And so those values didn't surprise me at all. But it was the first time that I've made them conscious about them. And this is the big eye opener. If you are aware, conscious about them, then you carry them with you. And then you can match every opportunity or every situation or every organization you work for, if this is your thing or not. Because, like I said before, in the previous roles, I'm not going to say I didn't fell at home. I was always like, there is something wrong here. But like a true male, in the past, I ignored my emotions and I did not listen to them, of course. And I also ignored my intuition and that inner voice. And of course, today I don't do that anymore. And that's also why I was always chasing after some kind of carrot. Whereas right now it's just the other way around.
The carrot is chasing you.
Yeah, you can say it. Yeah, but it's, I mean, the thing for me is that, when it's about being, doing, and then having, instead of doing things, then you have certain things, and then you will be somebody. So I flip that around. I am already somebody, and I'm happy with the situation, everything there is right now, who I am, and everything is fine. And in order that I can take aligned action in doing, and as a result of that, I will have certain things. And by thinking like that, is that in order, instead of chasing happiness or money, I chase, or I focus, or I take aligned action with some kind of purpose, which is some kind of burning fire, some kind of North Star, which is inside of me, like having impact on people. And as a side effect, I get paid for that, and I am very happy. It gives me energy. And of course, if you combine those two, that's a great life to live, of course. I mean, I'm planning to stay here for a couple of 20 or 30 years on this planet in this material form. So that works for me. But it's still something every day that I need to be aware of and conscious about, of course.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've written a bunch of stuff, and I interrupted you just when you said, okay, listen, I'm going to look for another job. I'm going to apply for the first time another job. Let's briefly continue with this, and then let's really dig into your way of thinking and being now.
Oh, one moment. The light is out. Yes.
So you're looking for another job. You were applying for another role for the first time in your life, you said.
Yeah, indeed. So and that's and my partner, my wife now was then at that time my mirror. So what she did is that because she takes a lot of decision based on her intuition, and I'm not. So every time, and I applied for like the most crazy jobs in the most strange, extreme organizations. So it was software. Gartner was also there. I mean, it was a marketing company. So everything that I thought, why not? And afterwards, I called her, and she asked me questions. How was it, etc., etc. And she said, Peter, now you're living again in your head, because I started about the title, the car, the wages, the blah 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 blah, and she's like, no, that's ego. And then the other job, this is different. This is really different, this role. And then I was like, yeah. And that's how I actually reinvented myself. And very important was that it also came together with the fact that in the last job, the way of doing sales, the typical pushy sales, end of quarter, you know the drill. Eh?
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, but there has to be another way also. Isn't there a way of a more pull philosophy? And then I've read the book Flow, which is from Jan Bommeré, and he got flow from the granddaddy of positive psychology. That's Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. He died last year, I believe, and I heard that on a sales podcast, and then I discovered that book of Flow of Jan Bommeré, and I was like, what's the thing with that flow? And that book was about the best of the best sales in the world, because I was so ambitious. I was like, I want to become one of the best sales in the world, not compared to somebody else, because everybody in the world can be the best of the best, but I want to be the best and the best compared to myself of 5 years ago. And there I studied everything that I could find, and I was like, if I could now find an environment where I can apply these rules and work on that philosophy. So I did. So I asked them carte blanche, and there was no new business at all, zero. It's nothing. They only had existing customers and a bunch of farmers, the account managers, and they did a great job. But there was no new business, and they if they did a deal, they lost. And I was like, I'm going to stay here for 1 year. I give it a shot for 1 year, and if it's nothing, I'm gone. And I stayed there for 5 years almost. So and for me that pull philosophy, I can call it, is actually the foundation of selling without selling your soul. So the first YouTube, and then later, which became the foundation of my podcast, where I ask brilliant people like yourself on how they are doing sales and sales leadership roles. So I combined the two. So I changed for myself the way I live, the way I look at life, how I look at sales at the same time, and how can I apply it in a sales role. And after 5 years, Dropsolid contacted me, and they said, "Do you want to coach younger people?" And I was like, "Yeah." So how can I teach that to younger people? And hoping that they don't make the same mistakes, or at least if they make the mistakes, that they make it around their 25th anniversary instead of their 36th. So
great, because you said at a certain moment I had to have all these things to get those learnings. At the same time, if you would have had somebody like you, like a coach, when you were mid-20s, would you have had the same journey as you have had now? Would you make the same mistakes? Or, I mean, it's a very hypothetical question, I understand, but do you see it at the people that you coach and lead today, that they're maybe thinking twice before they make a similar mistake as you might have done? Or especially, like, do you see that they or somebody that they think should be, or do you see that they really can be genuine?
That's a great question. The thing was that I had very good mentors. I had really great coaches, which all focused on the rational business side of things. None of them, they were friendly people, but none of them were focused on the more personal growth, mental/emotional side of the coaching aspect, which is a typical male thing. And male, I mean not male in the gender, I mean male in the energy. So if I see that with certain people in my team, yes, I see it, because they are making similar, I wouldn't say mistakes, but they're going through the same lessons. Like, I mean, if you are a good sales, most of the sales are quite ambitious, and they want to become a sales leader in some kind of way. And so in order to do that, they are going to create expectations of themselves, where they want to be within 6 months and where they're really at. And because they have those expectations of whom they should be compared to what the reality is, creates lots of stress. So that's one. And two is that also I've seen sales here that that they need that result, that getting that target, in order that they that they are feeling good. So I had to coach them really hard, saying, you are not your target. I mean, you're doing all you could do is all you can do, but all you can do is enough. I mean, so I'm very conscious about the fact you can stretch people, but make sure that they are growing, but that you don't overstretch them and that you burn them out. Because, yeah, I've seen that before in other organizations where people were burned out. So, I mean, you have to have ambition, and it's okay to have a result, but that cannot be, I mean, who you really are, your self-esteem cannot be attached to that. I mean, if you make it, great. If you don't make it, it's also great. Of course, you have to learn from that, you have to, etc. But it's I'm very aware of the fact that they cannot attach them to themselves, because if I see that, I'm going to work very hard on them to make sure so that they can see, that they become aware, that they become conscious, that they should cut that tie between those two. And it really works, because you see that in terms of their happiness, their job happiness. You can see that how happy they are. I mean, and the happier they are, the strange thing is, the better they are getting the results. So, and this is one of my first universal law secrets, is that detach from the outcome. It sounds really strange, but create an objective, that's great, having some kind of North Star, but then let it go. And when you go into a client's engagement, I mean, don't focus on the deal, but focus on that person, on that relationship. Who is that person? What is he or she driving? Where does he or she stand right now? And where does he or she needs to or wants to go, point B? And help them with their transformation, with your software, your tool, your service, whatever the thing that you're selling. And that's for me, the big change, which is also in sales land. Yeah, it's the minority of people who apply that. So those salespeople are really, or those customers or prospects are really feeling a really different way of selling. Of course, they have the typical old school techniques, and if you combine those two, I mean, you get and great sales and potential great sales leaders, and you great conscious people also.
And if you look at the target setting, so in the end, people can be very happy and not reaching any target, which has an impact on the company's performance. And people can be happy and reach their targets as well. So how do you make a distinction between the two, that there is still a drive to the outcome, and that people are happy and fulfilled at the same time? What are your techniques?
But first of all, people are responsible for their own happiness. I mean, I'm not here to make them happy. Let that be clear. Second of all, they are aware that a company, its fuel, its energy is margin or sales. And so because they are so tied to that purpose of the group, then when somebody is successful, they also want to be successful, because they don't want to left behind. They feel responsible to contribute also. And they all are overachieving their targets. So if people are not getting their targets, then I'm going to look at, okay, if you don't get any targets, this means there are no orders. Why are there no orders? Then I want to see offers, proposals.
Yeah.
If I don't see enough proposals, of course, I'm going to look at the conversion. Why aren't you converting like 80 or 90% of your offers into ones? This is for me a very important one. And of course, I want to, if there are not enough offers, which I don't have at this moment, then I'm going to look at what is your activity, of course. I mean, customer engagement, how many meetings, then I get to the nitty-gritty detail. And I mean, yes, they need to feel good about themselves. At the same time, like I mentioned before, I'm going to challenge them. So I warn them, I'm going to give you open and direct feedback right now. And all of them are hungry about that, because they want to grow. They're like, Peter, it's great that we're doing great, but I want to learn. I want to give it to me. And then I'm going to go into customer engagements, and I say, look, now you're going to own the meeting. I'm not going to say anything. I'm here for coaching purposes, learning purposes. And so I give them honestly direct feedback because I have a very direct communication style. For a lot of people, a little bit too direct. So, but it's direct, and it's not about me, my ego, pushing them into a burnout. It's more like getting out what's in there. I mean, triggering them, getting rid of their limiting beliefs, and making sure that they are using their full potential, which is inside of them. So I'm going to manage and challenge them on their potential.
Yeah. So to play a bit the devil's advocate, if I were going to be a corporate Excel manager and I see that all my business team overachieves their target, then I might think, hey, we set our targets too low. Let's set them a bit higher, because on average, 75% of the salespeople should reach their targets. So these are like there are a few of these ideas out there. So what would you say against this?
You're mentioning it, corporate sales manager, and I know how the thing works, and I don't believe in that. I rather go for a team, because I really believe in, if you're also into sports, you're a high performer in sports. I have it in music. I see it in soccer teams. I really believe in flow in a group. It's called synergy or co-creation, and then the total becomes more than the underlying parts. There is some kind of, it's like what's the guy, the producer of We Are the World and Thriller of Michael Jackson. He said that in a documentary. I forgot his name, and he mentioned, I mean, you should record 80% of the music, and then you let the magic add the extra 20%. And for me, the total magic is, for me, more important than having a corporate Excel manager, because then again, you are in that old school of thinking. Then you're for me, you're in a scarcity mindset. So I'm more of an abundance guy, and I want everybody to win. Of course, I mean, you have to set targets to stretch them. So, I mean, they know that the targets will be raised by 30-40% compared to last year. And I also give them the promise that if I see destructive behavior, mentality, blah, blah, blah for the team, these people will be kicked out, because I already have said goodbye to certain people which did not fit that team, which is very important. So to answer your question, I rather go for the total is more than some of the underlying parts, then go for the 75% of reaching their targets.
And great answer. I was going to say great question, but great answer, because you really protect your team, as any sales leader should do. And when you talk about this to the top management, to the board, how do you go about this? Because maybe they also have spoken to some people that know some corporate statistics and might give you some like input or suggestions. How do you talk to them?
Then I say really brutally, here's a phone, do it yourself. So I don't say my philosophy is the truth, or is the golden bullet or the silver bullet to any company. Is just, for me, it works, and I really believe in that, and I'm looking for people who also believe in that, also in terms of sales, and so the results are there. You see, will it work in every company? No, but for the last 10 years, both companies had great EBITDAs, great turnovers, great growth. So for me, it works. But I understand that. I mean, I don't think a Microsoft or an Oracle or an SAP or a corporate will apply this rule, because they have. Yeah, it's really difficult to change that culture. I mean, because it's also a cultural thing. But for me, it works. So if I look at the board, they look at numbers, of course. There are more KPIs, but they look at numbers. They look at customers, and of course they are happy. And as long as the numbers are great, I think. And also the fact is, Cedric, and I think in 2022, and I think you are aware of that also, because when I talk with a lot of sales leaders, and is that there is everybody's talking about technical people, developers, engineers, system engineers. I'm going to generalize them, the technical community. There's a scarcity of people. Mm-hmm. There's also scarcity of great salespeople, especially with a lot of new startup companies. I mean, coming into marketing and sales and all kind of. You cannot even imagine it, or there is some kind of SaaS version for it, for an industry. Last week I was at the SaaS. I played at a gig at a company event where there was a SaaS for logistics software. I mean, I wasn't even aware that it exists. So the thing is, those companies need also salespeople. So, I mean, if you are not treating your people well, and this is just very black-white set, I mean, if you don't make sure that they are successful and you treat them well, I mean, they're being hunted via LinkedIn or headhunters. Then you're like, okay, are you going to do it bored? Do it yourself. I mean, I invite you. And that's the thing also, is that in a lot of companies, sales is seen as a more like, negative thingish. So it really depends on that's also a thing I learned. I mean, for me, a good CEO has a sales background, or at least has been part of the sales process in the beginning, so he or she is aware of. So for us also, our CEO, she is also, or the founders are involved in sales engagements. So, I mean, I don't have to explain them. They see how it works. They know what the challenges are. So my answer would be, I invite you to sales calls. And so for me, I know what you're heading at that question, because I had that in the past, and it's not my thing anymore. I mean, because I really believe, like I said before, I'm driven by building a company, by building a company you need sales. So I choose that kind of environment because it fits with me.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. And I obviously agree. Otherwise, I would not have asked that question, of course, right? Because we are both a bit entrepreneurs, and we both have a certain mindset. What I also I'm looking at my notes. What I also noted is that you say it's a conscious. You're constantly consciously aware of it. So how does this start? And you said I was very goal oriented. I was overachieving, and now you're consciously aware of what you're doing. So how did you start with this, and how is it evolving?
There are a couple of things there. I mean, the first 2 points are there is a difference between time management and energy management. I mean, I don't have to explain. Time is ticking away. I mean, You have a certain amount of seconds in your life. I mean, you have that point between your birth and your death. And I think it's your job to maximize, to enjoy life to its fullest. At least that's what I assume. That for me, that's my ambition. So when I learned, and that's the thing with flow, is that there is a saying that they say, I mean, if you spend 1 hour with a beautiful girl or beautiful boy, it can feel like 1 minute. But if you are going to step into fire, that 1 minute can feel like an hour. And if you, instead of focusing on time management, but focus on energy management, I mean, that's a completely different thing. But in order to focus on energy management, you have to stand still and to feel in your complete body, and not only in your head. I mean, is this thing that I'm doing, or this activity, is this giving me energy, or is this draining me energy? Okay. I mean, you mentioned Excel. I'm good at it, but it drains my energy. So I have to be very careful. But I have people in our team which are great at it, but they are not great in feeling the room, reading the room, knowing some kind of strategy. For me, I don't have to think about it. It just comes naturally. So I know we're going to do this, and this will happen. This will work. And these are the right people to win this deal. So I focus on energy management. You have to stand still. And standing still is that we have a muscle inside of ourselves. We have a lot of muscles in ourselves. And one of those muscles is the awareness muscle or the conscious muscle. And so this muscle helps you to see, first of all, your limiting beliefs. I mean, if you have like a scarcity mindset, and if you think that if you see only problems, I mean, it's going to be really difficult to find opportunities, because the thing that you focus on, you will enlarge. Mm-hmm. What you persist will resist. And the thing is that so you can train by slowing down and feeling, okay, how am I feeling? How is my energy? What are my limiting beliefs? Okay, I have a limiting belief about this or that. Like money, I see a lot of salespeople have a money mindset, a money scarcity mindset problem. They are afraid of asking a deal of, I don't know, 1 million euros, because they're not convinced that this deal has the value of 1 million euros. And it's really, they are unaware and unconscious about it, but you can feel it in that energy that they are bringing towards that customer. You are nothing, so you know what I'm talking about. And so you have to help them expand their minds and change that so they become abundant in terms of money, and that you're not afraid of, okay, it's 1 million euros. And because they're all thinking about certain excuses why this is not worth 1 million euros.
And they start asking for a discount before they even spoke to the customer or the decision maker.
Yeah. So it's energy management, and the second is that the thing I learned is that, and it is linked to it, is that there is a difference between being efficient and being effective. Being efficient is doing the things right, but being effective is doing the right things. I mean, and if you are in a creative process, I mean, it's not linear. I don't have to explain the journey you are taking as an entrepreneur with Jump Foundation. It's not you do here and then you, no. It's really searching, and then you're something, and then etc. And it's the same thing. And so if you have to also focus on being effective. So it can be that you say, I'm going to drive in my car to that customer, to that prospect, having an hour, 2 hours of a physical meeting. Then you can say, this is not very efficient. I understand. But if you then at that 2 hours planted the seed for a very fruitful relationship, and you have discovered information that you will never ever would have discovered, or you have gained a certain first foundation of trust, I mean, I don't have to explain there. I mean, and that's the thing. If focusing on effectiveness rather on just, I mean, doing the things right, that's fine for me. But are you doing the right things? And you have to ask yourself that over and over and over again. So that awareness, it was just there that it started, and then later on, I mean, I had meditation practices where I really stand still and looking at myself and looking at that internal voice, that FM radio, which is dialing in your head. And then by slowing yourself down, you become aware of what that inner voice, that inner dialogue is telling you. And then you can change the dial. But in order to change the dial, the key is to become aware, what the hell are you listening to? Are you listening to Problems 90.68 FM? Or are you listening to Opportunities 101.2 FM? I make it a little bit simple here, but it's and a lot of people are living their lives, and they get up in the morning, and they go to the bathroom, and they brush their teeth, and they make breakfast and things like that, and they're doing always the same program of the software. But they're not aware of the software that is running, and awareness is the key to change that software in your head, and to say, maybe I need to reprogram myself, and then then you're entering the mindset principles. But remember, the mindset thing, which is also something Michael Humblay asked me a couple of months ago. I only became aware of it when I was around 38 or 37. So before that, I thought mindset was complete BS. But now I discovered that it's a very important part of being a good salesperson.
Yeah, and we both know well Joe Dispenza, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. Many people are unaware how they are, all the habits that really drive their own behaviors. So do you have moments that you realize, okay, listen, I'm a bit too much unconscious, I need to step back again? And if so, do you have like a routine or something that you do then to reset again?
Yeah, it started, I think, a couple of years ago. It was an architect, Peter Royer, who noticed when I was doing too much, and I was too much in my head, doing too much meetings, and taking on too much, that I became then very direct and stressy, and this, that. And he was like, Peter, go home, go into a wood, cool down, and come back. And then I learned that every time when I'm in a kind of a stress modus and doing too much things at the same time, and then I feel pumped up, but in a negative way, I'm like, how busy it may be, I need to pull back and I need to take 3 steps back, because I am in my own way. I am blocking myself where the energy cannot flow. So I need to take a step back and becoming one again with the moment, with the present, with the here and now. And it can be with meditation, but it can also be with a simple breathing exercise, the 4-7-8, which is like 4 counts in, you hold your breath for 7 counts, and then 8 counts out. So when the breathing out becomes longer than the breathing in, then you're becoming calmer. If you are breathing in longer than breathing out, you're becoming stressed. So you're using this part of your body, which is stress. But if you're then using your belly, then and you're becoming, and then you feel okay. And then you look at all these, you look at life or the situation you're in, and you're looking at, okay, is this going to really matter for the coming 6 months? Is this going to add revenue? Is this going to bring any joy? And then by taking a distance, then I don't identify myself with that situation, and it becomes depersonalized. And by looking at a helicopter view, I am becoming more creative, and second, the ego thing is out of it, and it will give me solutions to when I'm too much standing into the winds, the tornado, I will call it. I mean, I don't see the thing, so I had to let it go instead of pushing for having right now a solution.
Yeah,
because I almost yes.
Yeah, no, go ahead. You almost.
Well, and the thing is that I realize that everything comes on time. So I mean, grass does not grow more rapid by pulling on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you laugh with it, but it's for me it's a lesson, because I'm a very impatient person. I want that everything happens right now within 5 minutes. If people say me, when should I have it? Not tomorrow, but tonight is fine. So so I'm aware of that. I'm conscious about it, that I have that in me. So I have to be become aware. So yes, by pulling back, breathing, meditation, it can be walking in the woods, and I feel it when I'm stressed, because stress is resistant to what is right now. And I'm like, no, I have to slow down.
Yeah. I love it. I love the tips. And if you even go a step back, right, when you have people listening, it might seem a big shift. I say it might seem a big shift. I say, okay, I have my day-to-day, I have my hurry, I have my targets, I have my product to bring on the market. Where can they start? What is the first small step that they can take to start at the journey?
But the thing is, by realizing it's a journey, and the destination is the journey. So there will be no point that you will reach that you think you are there. Second is that, I mean, you are running a marathon here. You're not running a sprint. So it's your life, it's your career. I mean, you are responsible for it. And if you are making the target this year, you can be sure of that next year they will be adding 20, 30, 40%. So you have to make sure, because you're running a marathon, you have to take care of your energy. And because people will expect of you that you will reach your target for the coming 30 years. I mean, especially as a sales leader, it's the same circus, I could call it. So you have to be aware of that if that's your thing. And the third thing is that, yes, it's great to focus on that target, but make sure that it's not attached to your self-esteem. Now, that being said, of course, you have to be really brutally honest with the actions that you can take right now, because you cannot control the outcome, but you can control the actions that you're going to take, and be brutally honest. Is the things that I'm doing just because I want to feel busy because it makes me feel good, or I'm really taking the necessary action? Because I see lots of people being in meetings, which I hate, internal meetings, talking about all interesting stuff, but I don't see any. I mean, is that meeting going to add a certain revenue? Is it going to increase a certain relationship of trust with customers or with prospects, things like that? So, and I want that people are going to be brutally honest and take responsibility for themselves by looking at those things that they are doing.
Yeah. And we also have people that, and we all know them, people that are, let me say, still in the rat race, still looking at the bling bling, the big car, the salary, the bonuses. How can they start the journey? They're in the scarcity mindset. They might be afraid of losing their job. They have a bunch of responsibilities in between brackets to maintain the mortgage and maybe a way of living. What would you say to them?
I wish you the great car, the big Mercedes or BMW. I wish you the great president's clubs in all beautiful places. I wish you all the money that you have, to realize that you will still be the same person with the same scarcity mindset, and you will learn the lesson once the lesson is there for you. Because I think personally you have to go through that phase to realize, I mean, you can buy a 20th Mercedes in your garage, but there will come a certain point in your life that you will see that you are chasing something which is not fulfilling you anymore. But you should go through that, of course. Yeah. The thing that I see, Cedric, is that if I look at our generation, which I still consider as young, if I compare that, for instance, to sales leaders like Bram van der Velde, there is a different generation coming. I see people who are also driven by purpose and who realize that they don't want to have that same life as their fathers, who were never there and always working, and they are looking for a little bit more depth than for instance our generation, who our fathers and mothers were like the post-war survivors and were focusing on security for their children. So I think there is hope. There is lots of hope. I mean, if you pronounce the word meditation in younger generations, they're like, yeah, it's even cool. It's hipster. It's us who think it's stupid. But the younger generations are more open-minded than us. Of course, they also want to drive in a nice car, and there's nothing wrong with that. Mm-hmm. But I mean, so.
But a big thing is maybe many of us lived the life they thought they had to live.
Yeah.
They were doing what they thought they had to do, and in that sense, we didn't have a time to consciously think, what do we want to do? Because we were expected, if you have good marks, to become a doctor or a lawyer or you name it. And you know, as well, right? I had also my burnout when I was in mid-30s. And then also I was very confronted with, okay, I had a high title, high revenue responsibility, mm-hmm. but in the end, that's not really what doesn't
matter. It doesn't matter anything.
Keeps me running. I love painting. I love drawing, and I'm a creative person, just like you're a creator. And by combining providing versus together with creating, I think you can really contribute much more, and as well as combined with being direct, because there are always people that will try to benefit from who you are, but not in a nice way. So you still somehow need to protect your ego, I think. You cannot lose yourself. So it's really kind of a balance, right?
Yeah, I think it's a very important one. I think a burnout is the fact that who you think you are and the life you're living is so far from who you really are, but you just neglected the whispers from inside. Yeah. Then it becomes screams, and then the body says, party is over, computer says no. And it's your job to live a life which is close to who you really are, your true nature, instead of living a life based on external validation, I call that. Yeah. So external validation is based on, there's nothing wrong being the sales leader, but why are you doing that? Yeah, you're doing it for the car and the money, which is fine, eh? That's your life. But that external validation, and it's a pit, it's a trap. You can never fill 100% because it's like that rat running in a cage. You have to keep on running in order to fill that gap. But for me, it doesn't work if that's worked for you. And at the end, you see, indeed, people coming into some kind of burnout because their body, did not listen to their inner voice or their body, because and they have some kind of physical things that were not going well. So for me, it's your job to live a life which is close to you. And indeed, one of the things that I've learned is that there is some kind of artistic side inside of me, which I neglected for like 20 years, 30 years, and I don't blame them, my parents, but I had a limiting belief that being creative was not paying the bills, which is absolutely not true, of course. And that's why I love to create stuff like videos and podcasts and doing things with you and the We Are Sales events, and of course playing music. And it's all the same thing. Creating a company, creating a podcast, it's all about growing. And that's for me the fire, the journey. And and that keeps me flowing. And as a side effect, of course, you're reaching your target, etc., etc. And I know I explain it in a very philosophical way. Of course, I have pipeline reviews and using the techniques and things like that. But if you can combine that emotional, more magical side with the more rational side, then it becomes really, then that balance that becomes, then it's fun. Then I don't feel like, I was listening to an 80s rock song this weekend. People are looking for the weekend from Loverboy. I'm like, if you have a life based only on Saturday and Sunday, oh my God. Or that song of Katy Perry, Thank God It's Friday, TGIF. I'm like, oh my God. Then you have a really limited life. There is no, if I look at my son, there is no difference between Saturday and Monday or Wednesday. He's having fun all of the time. And that is, I think, the true nature of living.
Yeah, I agree. I used to work as a student in a metal factory, and there was always the guy, oh, it's Monday, I hope you're quickly Friday. And I was always like, that's not right. Or for me, the same thing, people that say, oh, when you retire, then you go to live in Italy or Spain or a little house in France. Why wait? And enjoy the moment, seize the moment, you will find opportunity. So this is also something I have definitely learned.
And this is, by the way, a question that I ask every boss that I had. Why are you doing what you're doing? And I remember a startup where I applied for a job, and that VP told me, within 4 years, I'm just doing it for myself, and in 4 years, I just want to sit in my boat on Italy. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. The thing was, I don't want to work for a person who is not focusing on growing me. I was like, okay, if that's your driver, okay. But if he would told me, I'm focusing on you and I want to make you successful and the team and blah, blah, blah. And as a result of that, in 5 years, he can sell the company and live on a boat in Italy. Great. Enjoy. But as a side effect, not his purpose. And that was for me off. And that's for me, if that leader is not focusing on growing you, and then growing you will grow the company. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, very interesting and true. And maybe one last thing, we were talking about it and about the golden cage and about the title, retire. What I see that the people that retire and were always stuck to their titles, when they retire, they fall in nothingness because they attach themselves to their title. So for me, it's very important that you exactly just what you do. You develop yourself as a human being. You contribute. You share that. When something happens, that you have all the other things that you are as a human being, rather than being attached to your title.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I know quite some C-levels who are so in love with their title, is that it's good to have things, but make sure that things don't have you. It's the same for titles. And I mean, I'm like, don't take yourself too seriously with your title. I mean, you're just like an infant with a tie. So, and of course, playing music is a great way of. I mean, the title sales director or sales leader, they don't care. They're like, play your guitar. They don't care. The other musicians, they don't know, they don't care. It doesn't matter. Then your role is guitar player. So, I mean, what should I do? I'm a sales leader, whatever. That's an ego thing. And I mean, keep your ego in check. That's a very important one. If there's nothing wrong that your ego is playing. I mean, I love playing. It's how do you say that? My ego is also being carried, or what is the term? When I'm playing great gigs, big performances with lots of people screaming at us for like 2 hours or 3 hours. Of course, when I consciously choose, my ego now can play, and it's also expected from me. I mean that I act like some kind of pumped up musician, so that I'm going into the passion and the energy of the audience, and that not some kind of wallflower musician. But then I choose consciously to let my ego play. But for the rest of the time, I mean, I'm like, and that's the thing that I think what was 4 years ago that the doctor told me, and my son of 6 months was with me because he had also a little flu that you would have that with babies. She said to me, the doctor, "No, you're lucky. Otherwise, you have been dead within 3 months." And that kind of, I don't want to make it dramatic, but it makes you wonder, like, and you see that also with cancer patients. They have like a cancer-free day, and this is the day that they use to live a life if they would die tomorrow. And you heard that also in music, and great guitar players like play every note as it was their last one. And I like that mentality, that here and now, that how are you going to spend your day tomorrow if it was like your last day? That's the same question. How are you going to spend your day tomorrow if or your life if it was almost over? And it makes you think very black and white, which is important and which is not important. And that title, Cedric, I find it, to be honest, much more important, and I'm very grateful the way our paths have crossed, which gives me energy because you challenge me in a good way, and otherwise also. And I prefer that kind of thing that gives me value in my life than, I don't know, knowing if you were a VP of sales or whatever title. And that's for personally what fuels me. But of course, when you're 20, 25 and you want to be important amongst your friends and get a girlfriend, and you think a big title is going to give you some kind of success.
Some cultures are very hierarchical, where titles are very important. But we see exactly right, especially in tech companies, it's in general, it's definitely in scale-ups, it's in general less hierarchical. It kind of supports and stimulates a different level of thinking. What do you
But
think about it?
there's nothing wrong with the title. I know, for instance, in Brazil and those countries, there you should at least have a VP title. And I understand. Sometimes I also use my title. The only thing is that who I am is not attached to my title. That's a big difference. Yeah. So if I have to step into that role, playing that title, which is fine, but it's not who I am. See? Yeah. And that's for me the big difference. I have nothing against it. It's more like playing a video game, but then you're like sales leader in that video game. But you know it's a game.
Yeah, true. And on that we are over the hour. So, but I really did you ever feel like an actor in the beginning or now?
Well, yes, actor. I was not aware I was wearing masks because I heard that from my environment. They were like, everything is too perfect with you. It looks like you're made of plastic. And then I showed more the Brené Brown, the vulnerability part, the authentic part, because I was afraid to show up who I really am, because I thought people love that mask, that actor part. And again, we're getting to that. I think I'm not good enough. So that self-love is really been the ticket for me of showing up in the world who I am. Yeah. But as a result, it creates better relationships with everybody I meet. I'm becoming a much better sales instead of just playing some character that I think the world was expecting of me, which was actually afterwards, if I look back, complete bullshit, but I wasn't aware of it.
Wow, all right. Very profound. I have 3 questions I asked to everybody at the end. So the first question is, what did you wish you had done differently looking back?
Listen to my intuition more earlier on.
Your intuition, is it better than it was before?
I didn't do it. I took decisions based on my head, on the rational part. So if I should have taken intuition also into that mix, because then I think I would have made better decisions. Based on a job, whatever. Yeah.
And if you look now, from the time you started working on your intuition, is it improving, or do you listen other and better to it? How does it work?
I first listen to my intuition. And it's also a lesson that I learned from everybody who's joined the podcast. So for me, it's first intuition, and then I'm going to look from a more rational side of it. Yeah. And intuition is a thing that you know immediately, this is the right person, this is not the right person for the team. And it's not an emotional. The emotions is something different. Emotion is reactive. That's because you are triggered by something. Intuition is some knowing immediately, this is it, this is the right. Everybody knows that. Intuition is it can be compared to the situation you have lost your keys. And you're searching everywhere, you don't find them. You go to bed, and then you let everything go, and then your keys are there, and there they are. That's your intuition.
Interesting. And do you have any podcasts or book that inspire you and that help making you the way you are?
Oh, lots of them. Of course, my own podcasts, because that's the reason why I make them. I think a great book is Business Means Spirit by Alan Cohen. I think it's a great book. It's an English book. I have lots of books. I'm a book fanatic. I think also The Qualified Sales Leader is a good book because they also use their Read the Room from John McMahon. And he also uses intuition. This is the first sales book that I encountered that uses intuition, and I love the way he combines it. And also that podcast from John Kaplan, I find really great. And then of course in Dutch, it's Flow from Jan Domree. I think it's a great book. Still, it can be challenging, because you can think it's a hoo-hoo book. It's a little bit, did you sniff any washing powder or something? Or did you get stuck in some kind of ayahuasca meditation ceremony? So you have to be ready for it, because that's the thing with this kind of books. So these 3 books, podcasts, because there's a lot of stuff. Yeah. The thing is, and this is also what you have been saying to your salespeople, people who are not listening to podcasts or reading books are falling behind. And I think you should advise to, of course, look at sales podcasts, but also look at other resources of more general things like digital transformation, but also more the reflection, personal growth side of things. Once you start taking that route of personal growth, which is like mindset and self-reflection, you're coming to the prices. You have to let go of certain things and people, but the reward is that you're becoming closer to who you really are. And I think that's really the key to great life, to be honest.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. And definitely right. You have to start your own journey. And then that's the bridge to the third question. When it is time to pivot or to have a shift in mindset?
What is the question?
When is the time for a pivot or a shift in mindset?
Every time, every day. I think I see a human being as lots of layers, and it's 4 layers: physical, emotional, spiritual, and physical. Spiritual is more purpose than your why, and I call it spiritual. And so for me, there is no good day to have some kind of pivot, and I think you should reflect regularly. For me, it's answering that question. Assume I give you 5 million euros. Describe me your working week. How would it look like? You should work. And if all those things that you are saying, and it's close with the life you're living right now, then I think, and if it's not, then it's time certainly to take action and to pivot.
That's a great one to look at it. Yeah, great one. Perfect. And it's also a great way to finish the podcast, Peter. I learned a lot, and I know that the listeners have learned a lot as well. Thank you very much for this occasion, for listening to you.
Thank you, Cedric. Very grateful having you as a guest, and I wish you all the best and success and luck.